it going today, everybody? Sorry for the small break. I know it's been a couple weeks since I released a tutorial, but what I'm going to be showing you today is how to bring in the Google 3D maps into Lumion or D5. Indirectly, we'll learn how to do this into Blender as well, but as far as I'm aware, you can't do this with SketchUp. One, this add-on is made for Blender. I haven't done it with 3ds Max, and I know SketchUp can't really handle the geometry. So if you are interested in bringing it into Lumion or D5, I really, really recommend using Blender for this. However, if you don't know how to use Blender, it's really not a big deal. It's very easy, and you don't need to know how to use Blender. You basically just have to have it installed. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go here. You can just type in 0 or whatever you think is a fair price. If you want to go, $10, whatever, that's great. This is an awesome add-on. So you just hit I want this. And then what you can do is just type in your email address, wherever you want this to get sent. I've already downloaded this. You just hit download. You want to put this in a place that works for you. And then what we're going to do is we're going to open this up in Blender. I've installed the add-on, but I'm just going to remove it so we can start from scratch. So I have Blender 4.0 for this. If you want to use the same as me, you're going to go Edit, Preferences, and then you should get something that looks like this. In the add-ons here, you should get the list. If you type in BLOSM, it's not going to be there because we haven't installed it yet, but you can go and find where you saved this. So for me, it was here. I'm going to type this into search. So I have BLOSM 2.7.5. Going to hit OK. And then you should see this. We'll turn it on. Now you're going to find an area. I just did this on my desktop, no big deal. Just make a folder called OpenStreetMap. It doesn't have to be perfect, just some folder you can put it. These will automatically get created. Hit OK. Now the next step is to actually go to Google and get the API so that it will pull from your account. If you don't have a Google account, you are going to have to make it. You do have to put billing information in, but it is free. I've never been billed for it. Sometimes I'll just get an email that says this is your monthly billing, but it's always 0. I think what they do is they just give you credits, but I'm assuming it's that in the future you have to pay for it, or just the way that it was set up. It's basically a paid service. They're giving you credits to use. So that's why it's set up in a bit of a weird way. But if you just hit get it, then it's going to take you to this page here. And you can hit go to credentials page. And then I believe it's going to give you a prompt to create a project, start a project. I just made one quickly on the other account that I'm using just to test all of this out. But you should see something here. I just made it the generic project name. It shouldn't really matter. So click on my project, and then it's going to take you to another page again. And this part, I know it is kind of annoying, but as I mentioned, you only have to do it once. So don't worry too much about it. Then I go to APIs and service. Now, it's technically free to get these, but I think that Google still bills your account, but you get credits for it. So just be aware of that. But it says you're eligible for this. It says no charge to try maps, get $200 monthly credit. So I don't know if that's going to change in the future, but as for right now, at least, it is free to get quite a bit of the maps out of there. We've used it quite a bit, and we've never actually had to pay an amount for it. Sometimes I'll get an email that just says your monthly billing is renewed or something, but it's always 0. I'm just going to agree and continue on this. You can basically just fill in all of this information. Then you should just go here, step 2, payment, blah, blah, start free. And then just quickly answer some of these questions. You can just put whatever you want. Okay, so you're all set to develop. Here's the API key you would need for your implementation. API key can be referenced in the credentials section. So I'm going to blur a couple of these numbers out. I don't actually know if it matters if this key is out there, but just to be safe, I'm probably going to get rid of some of them. It's just a string of capitals, lowercase letters, and a couple of numbers in there. So copy that to the clipboard. Key, there is one more thing we have to do before we're ready to import. So in your console.cloud.google here, you're gonna have to go to API and services, and you are gonna have to enable this one right here, Map Tiles API. So I don't know if you have to search it up. For me, it's just you click the button and it's right there. You enable this, and then you can pull the tiles. We're gonna go into Blender. I'm gonna copy this here. This may just take a moment. It's loading. Okay, so we can close this. Now, to find out where this was installed, you can hit your N button, and then you're going to scroll down until you see BLOSM. We're going to pull this out, and then we're going to change OpenStreetMap to Google 3D Tiles. We hit select. And now what this does, this is going to take you to a website where you can basically select exactly what you want. Technically, what this does is it just makes the coordinates and then Blender will pull it for you, but this does make it a lot easier. So I'm just going to pick a place in Halifax, show the selection rectangle. So we'll get a bit of the coastline and George's Island in there. So then what you do is you can see down here, if you move this, these numbers will change slightly. So we're going to copy this and we're going to go paste. Now, these are all the different levels you can do. Just as we're testing this, I'm going to use groups of buildings. However, buildings with more detail, I'll probably have cut in at the end as some video because it does take a while. Like that space will probably take like 30 or 40 minutes to import using the buildings with more details. This one still takes like 5 minutes or so just because it is bringing in quite a bit of geometry. Now, if you're using Lumion, it doesn't really matter if you have this turned on, I think. It's fine if it's joined. For D5, you may not want to join them because for reasons we'll get into in the other video, you just can't import as many materials as might come in with this because there could be like 5,000 materials on a big object. So I'm going to show you how to bring that into Lumion and D5, both with the correct materials applied without having to actually go and place them in those softwares. So you can have this clicked on or off for this. Doesn't really matter if you're using Lumion. So hit import. And as long as there's no warning that pops up right away, it is going. So if you see a loading icon and everything, that means it's working. So you just have to hang tight until it loads. Okay, so this is successfully in. Now, what you should see is this kind of weird, like glitchy thing. The reason why is that we're just going to scroll up here. And again, if this has disappeared, hit N. But you're going to go to view, and then you want to just drop in a 0 right here. So the reason is because this is a pretty big area. So we're doing it, this is 10 kilometers now, not just 1. And just go down to material preview. Okay, so let's zoom out and see what we have here. So this is the area. Now, you'll notice that it doesn't come in exactly the area that we basically said that we wanted. The reason is because any tile that it touches, like these are all broken up into tiles. So any tile that it touches, it automatically pulls in. And then I think there's also a bit of a maintenance area. So I will mention this. If you're doing the lower quality ones, it goes a lot faster. When you do the high quality ones, these weird like circles don't appear. So don't worry about that. This is just showing the general idea of how you get through everything. So if you go over here, you can see that there is a ton of materials. And the problem with them is that they're not named because obviously it's just a bunch of random numbers. Now this one only has like 100 something, but some of the other ones we've done is easily over 6,000. So it is important that you follow the steps that I sort of set out so that it makes it easier to actually import this stuff. So what you're going to want to do here is you're going to go to shading, and then we can zoom out again. And we are going to have to hit N, go to view, and just change this back to 10,000. It's different viewports so that those settings don't kind of go through. But just for this, I wanted to show you this. So if you don't understand this, don't worry about it. But basically, the way that it comes into Blender by default is this really weird thing that it basically is like this emissive mesh that only the camera can see. So it doesn't appear in reflections. That's why this light path thing is set up. I don't want to use that at all. It does not translate into Lumion or D5. So if we had to go through and change all this, it would take a very long time. Luckily, there's 2 scripts that we can do that are very easy to use. So the first one, you just click on this mesh, and then you should see the option pop up inside of BLOSM. And then we just hit replace. Or sorry, make sure export ready is clicked and then hit replace. So that was pretty quick. What this does is this makes it so that they all are image textures that are plugged into the principal BSDF and then the material output. The reason why this is important is that if you're exporting as an FBX, which is what we're going to do for Lumion, then you need to have basically this image plugged into this because that's how it detects what material is going to go on it. If this is done correctly, it will actually import into Lumion with the materials already on the right spot, which saves you literally hours, if not the ability to actually do this. Because for those massive ones where they're not labeled, there's no real way of knowing what goes where. It's just trial and error. So it could literally take you months. Before we export, there's one last thing we have to do. So we want all of these to have a roughness of 1 and then a specular of 0. So if you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. We actually have a script that we made specifically for this. So I'm going to share this with you guys. What you can do is just copy and paste this. If you have it in a text file, it may look a little bit different than this because things won't be highlighted. That doesn't matter. If we're going into Blender, all we have to do is go up to the top here for scripting. If you don't see scripting for some reason, just hit plus, and then you can go to general, add scripting. But I think by default, this should always be there. So hit new, control V to copy and paste it in. Just so you didn't know, by the way, you can, if you highlight everything, control C, control V here. So what we do now is this should all work in 4.0. This will not work in 3.6, just so you, like, I'm assuming most people are using 4.0 for this. This is made for the newer version of Blender, and they changed how this code works. So this only works in 4.0 or above. So what you do is just hit play, and then you can go back to shading. Now you can see that when we do this, every single material now has that setting, because basically right here, we've said that every single principled BSDF, make that 1 for roughness, make it 0 for specular. That's all we need. So we can close this. Now, what we need to do is we need to save this. So we're going to want to save this. I have this just in our drive in Google Maps. Doesn't matter where you save it, but you want to put it here. And then this is why. So you're going to go external, back to file, external data, pack resources. Now, it may only say pack 2 files, but the reason why we save it, and this is important, is we're going to go to external data, unpack, and when you click this, click once, and then you'll notice that there's a menu that pops up. Click the top one, which is use files in current directory. Okay, so now let's go back here. Now you should see the textures are here. When I did this before, the reason why I messed up is that I didn't save it in the right spot. My textures just went off somewhere on the computer. I have no idea where. But once we're here, the texture's here. So I'm just going to delete this stuff here. You shouldn't have that. That was just the FBX file that I was doing when I was testing this. So we're going to go File now, Export, FBX. Now, this is already set up in the place I want it to go, which is good. When you're doing this, the only settings you have to change, path mode, copy, and you're going to click this here, embed textures. Easy. So I called this Halifax, export FBX. This may just take a moment. But what's going to happen is that all of the textures should basically just align with this. And if it doesn't work, I know another way that we can kind of get around it. But it looks like that exported. So now I'm going to open up my render computer that has Lumion open. I'm going to go to Place, Import New Model, find Halifax right here. Call this Halifax 1 just because I already had one called Halifax. Let's hit OK. This will just take a second. Obviously, depending on how crazy you make your scene, this could get a lot more nuts, how long it takes. Like these are some very big files when you do the highest quality. But if we drop this here now, then you will see, pull this up, boom. So keep in mind, you may not be really wowed by the quality of this. This is like, of the maybe like 4 or 5 levels of quality, this is like 0 or 1. This is like the very weakest quality, but it still works very well if you're just trying to get the spatial, awareness, I guess. So you can basically bring it in as a test and then just export the FBX again, and everything should go to the right place. So I'm going to check back with you guys when this is done. Okay, so I was able to actually get the high quality model in. I've already gone through and actually split it up a little bit, just because when I was trying to import it into Lumion, it was basically just saying that there's too much, or it just ran out of memory. So that's no big deal. What I'm going to quickly show you how to do, though, is how to actually break it up into a couple different segments. You don't have to really know too much about Blender to do this, but I just want to make sure that if someone does need it, they have this option. The lower quality that you go when you're importing this into Blender from the BLOSM add-on, the lower quality, the less you're going to have to actually break it apart. I think the cap with Lumion is it probably can't get nearly as many textures on as many materials, sorry, onto this object as the FBX needed, which honestly, it's a pretty ridiculous number. It's like 6,000. So they probably just didn't account for someone trying to import that in, which kind of makes sense. But what we're going to do to separate this properly is I'm going to hit 7 on the number pad. If you don't have that, just hit Z. And then I'm going to go tab, or you can go up here and select object mode, or sorry, edit mode. And then I'm going to click up here and turn it on to wireframe, or you can just hold Z and go wireframe. I'm going to grab this chunk here, and then I'm going to hit P selection. And now what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to click on this. Oh, one more step actually. So I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to go over here to remove unused slots. And then I'm going to click on this piece down here because this was like the second part of the one we just split. And then keep in mind, like, watch this right here. So this will get smaller the more materials there are. If I go remove unused slots, it gets quite a bit bigger. So with that, what I'm now going to do is I'm going to go File, Export, FBX. And then I already have a few broken out like this. I'm going to go Halifax 14, sorry. I have selected objects turned on, path mode copy with embed textures. So now I'm going to hit go. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to open up this. So this is what it actually looks like inside of Lumion. But before I get too far into that, I'm just going to check something. So I believe the one that we want to split is right on the coastline. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to click on this just because I want to get the name. Obviously, I've already imported this in. You may not have to do this. I'm just kind of showing everyone how I would actually split it up. So I think we just double tap that and wait a moment, and then it should pop up with the menu. Okay, yeah, so there's some extra geometry in this one. But what we're going to do, that's Halifax 7. So this one down here, because we made this one 14, I'll make this one 7 again. Exact same export. Just double tap that. And now if I go back into Lumion, double tap this. Now keep in mind, you probably don't have to do this exact part, but I'm going to show you how to import the new part of it in. So once you do that, because we just imported the new model, it's going to have a hole in it. So to fix that, now we're going to go place, import new model, 14. So now that we have imported the new Halifax 14, I'm just going to drop it right here. This is probably going to take a second so we can see it right there. We'll just place it. Now I'm going to go select. So what I find works best is to click on one, deselect it, and then highlight. Align positions. And then just like that, it's all broken up. So what I also want to show you here is now you've seen kind of what the final quality is, but let's actually turn on the draft layer that we had just to get an idea of how much better quality this is. So again, this takes quite a while to get out, but you can more or less see the individual rocks. You can see the hills, all the bumps. You can see some of the structures. Now, if I go over here, I turn this off. So this is the draft that we had. You can see at this distance, it's not the best, but it's pretty good. It's quite a bit faster. So we'll turn this off and just get one other look at that again. Now, mind you, I didn't make these line up perfectly. They are slightly different. So that's why you're seeing some of the stuff disappear. But this is probably the best example to actually compare it right there. If I actually turn around one more time, just want to give you one more shot of this. So this one, you can see quite a bit more detail. Yeah, it's really just up to you what you need for the project. I wanted to give you guys as many options as possible, but you know, ultimately it is up to you to determine what quality you need and for what distance. Keep in mind, once you download this, you shouldn't have to constantly do this. Like if you say, you know, I'm going to go and download all of Halifax and have it in some file, or just have it as like a Lumion asset with its own tag, you can pretty much just drop everything in, snap it to the origin point, and then everything should work correctly. You may have to have a big file in Blender to make all the pieces come in, but as long as you're willing to spend a little bit of time, or you have someone that you can make spend the time to do that, it can be a really, really great tool. Thanks for checking out the video today, everybody. It was a bit longer than I wanted, but I do think that this is an extremely important tool for people to use. So even if it takes you a little bit of trial and error to get working, we use this quite a bit for whether it's remote projects or actually just having in the background. It can be extremely helpful. Obviously, it is a little bit time consuming, but ultimately, I think it's worth it in the end. I am going to be trying to make more videos coming up in the future. So if you have an idea for a video that you'd like me to make, please leave a comment below. Or if there's an older video that you'd like me to bring up to speed to use with the new versions of Lumion, then please leave a comment and let me know. I am going to be making as many videos as I can on the release of Lumion 2024. I don't know all the features that are going to be coming out. I could probably take an educated guess, but as of right now, I'm not sure. But I'd love it if you guys stuck around for those videos. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. I'd also really appreciate it if you could like the video. But for now, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.